Diablo 3 Act 2. Despite looking like the deserts of Lut Gholein from Act 2 or of Diablo 2, Caldeum is in Kyrgyzstan, the jungle where Act 3 of Diablo 2 was set. Though Karas was originally the capital of Kyrgyzstan, after Mephisto destroyed it, the capital was moved to Caldeum. Part 1. Hunting Maghda. Back in New Tristram, Tyrael's plan was to follow Maghda and have her lead you to Belial. However, upon getting to Caldeum, your character decides that everyone should split up, so Tyrael and Leia go off to search for Belial while you go to hunt down Maghda. What? This is a terrible plan because it divides everyone into smaller groups, which are easier for Belial to defeat. It makes no sense for Tyrael to go after Belial instead of following his own plan and going after the only lead we have. It also makes no sense for Leia to go after Belial rather than go after Maghda to avenge Deckard Cain's death. What's the point of going after Maghda if she won't lead you to Belial? In Caldeum you meet Ashira, the leader of the Iron Wolves, who was also in Act 3 of Diablo 2. You learn that Maghda was seen heading for Alcarnus and that Emperor Hakan has expelled everyone from the inner city for some reason that's never explained. Rather than question the mob of nobles and court officials about where Belial might be, you head into the desert and come across several illusions that you need to dispel, even though you should be able to walk through an illusion because they're not real. After beating the Coven mages that were casting these illusions, you're able to get to the Qasim outpost, which has been overrun by Belial shapeshifting minions. You then continue on to Alcarnus, where you fight more Coven mages until you get to Maghda. Maghda tells you that Leia has been captured by Belial, you fight, and once you've beaten Maghda, the Coven is destroyed and won't appear again in Diablo 3. Part 2. Leia and Adria. You then return to the camp and talk to Tyrael. Even though he was supposed to be guarding Leia, somehow she was captured by the Imperial Guard, though Tyrael doesn't explain why he wasn't captured or how he was able to escape. Even though you tell Tyrael that Belial's demons made up the Imperial Guard which captured Leia, Tyrael doesn't want to help you rescue her, and instead chooses to stand around doing nothing. Given that Tyrael became mortal so that he could help humanity and find the Demon Lords, it's odd that he doesn't want to help Leia or enter the palace where Belial is likely to be hiding. So you talk to Ashira about Alcarnus and she helps you get into the palace. There, the young Emperor accuses you of killing all the people in Alcarnus and sentences you to death. His guards then turn into the same shape-shifting demons from the Qasim outpost. You fight your way out and escape into the sewers so Leia can rescue her mother, Adria. For those who don't recognise the name, Adria is another character from Diablo 1 who gave you a quest for a black mushroom and sold potions, scrolls and staves. After running through the sewers, you find Adria being tortured by shapeshifters for information about the Black Soulstone. You then rescue Adria and head back to your camp. Part 3. Zoltan Kulls. Adria tells everyone about the Black Soulstone which can be used to defeat Belial and Asmodan. However, to get it you need to bring Zoltan Kulls back to life. So your character volunteers to get Zoltan Kulls' head while Adria teaches Leia to control her powers, and Token Black Angel continues to stand around doing nothing. You then go to the sewers where Emperor Hakan is patiently waiting for someone to help him defeat Belial and save his kingdom. While the sensible thing to do would be to form an alliance with Emperor Hakan and help lead an uprising against Belial, your character instead chooses to search for the body parts of a dead wizard. You can ask Emperor Hakan about Belial, but he doesn't know who Belial is pretending to be. In the Dagger Oasis you find Zoltan Kulls' head, then go back to the camp and have Leia partially bring Kull back to life. It's a pity you couldn't use this spell on Deckard Cain. Next, your companions decide to bring Kull completely back to life and your character agrees to do all the work. Leia then joins you because you're going to fight a mini-boss and the developers felt you'd need help. So you travel to the aqueducts and meet Emperor Hakan. Even though you only just started your quest to revive Zoltan Kulls, he somehow knows where you are and that you need Zoltan Kulls' blood. Does he have spies in the hidden camp and throughout Kyrgyzstan? Also, your companions question how he can use a magic amulet to talk to you when his palace is full of Belial's guards, even though they didn't question how he was able to sneak out of the palace and into the sewers. So you activate some levers, meet covetous Shen, and fight the mini-boss Gavin. After beating Gavin and leaving the aqueducts, Leia leaves because you're not going to fight any mini-bosses for a while. Zoltan Kulls then tells you that you need 2 vials of his blood to get to his body. After you get the vials, Kulls tells you to take them to where his body is held, which is is right next to where the vials were. You'd think if the Horadrim didn't want Kull to be revived, they wouldn't put everything you needed so close together. You then enter Zoltan Kulls' archives and meet Emperor Hakan, who again knows what you're doing and where you are. He says that he's figured out who Belial is, but won't tell you. Next, you use Kull's blood to activate the relics and enter the third portal, retrieve Kull's body, and have Leia bring him back to life. You follow Kull to the room with the Black Soul Stone. Kull completes it, and somehow the Demon Lords get sucked into it. Zoltan Kull then refuses to hand over the Black Soul Stone, and rather than ask him what just happened, you decide to kill him. After Kull's death, everyone gathers round, and Adria explained that she marked the souls of the 5 Demon Lords that were defeated 20 years ago, so that when the Black Soul Stone was completed, they would get sucked into it. This means that Adria went to the cathedral for Andariel's soul, and Talrash's tomb for Duriel's soul, then went to the Durance of Hate for the portal to Hell, because Mephisto's soul was in the Soul Stone, so his soul would be where Mephisto and Diablo's Soul Stone were destroyed, the Hellforge. Finally, she would have to search all of Ariat for Baal's Soul Stone, or his soul, because the place he died, the Worldstone Keep, was blown to pieces when Tyrael destroyed the Worldstone. She then explains that by putting all 7 Demon Lords in the Black Soul Stone and shattering it will somehow cause the Demon Lords to die permanently, even though shattering Mephisto and Diablo's Soul Stone didn't kill them permanently. Since Tyrael doesn't have any objections to this, and he has spent thousands of years fighting against demons, everyone thinks it will work without any problems. Part 4. Belial. After getting back from Kull's archives, you find that the townspeople have gotten bored of waiting for you to overthrow Belial and have revolted against him. As your companions were more concerned with the Black Soul Stone than figuring out who Belial was, the plan is to go to the palace, rescue Emperor Hakan, and have him tell you who Belial is. So Adrian and Leia go to help the people of Caldeum and fight against Belial, while Tyrael stands around doing nothing, despite becoming mortal because he objected to the angels not doing anything to save humanity. So Tyrael's entire reason for becoming mortal is ignored in Act 2. In the city, Leia uses her powers to break down the palace door, you fight the demon shapeshifters, and you meet an illusionist. I'm unsure if he's a homage to the Summoner from Diablo 2 Act 2, for it seems like a waste to create a unique human character, then killing him off without explaining who he is or why he's helping Belial. Leia then breaks down the door to the Emperor's palace, but because she's overexerted herself, she has to rest. Adria also stops following you to tend to Leia. Personally, I felt this was a believable reason for these characters not to help you in the battle against Belial. It's definitely better than the nothing we got regarding why Tyrael isn't helping. So you meet the Emperor, who asks for the Black Soul Stone, and your character somehow figures out that he's Belial. Personally, I'd have liked my character to list the reasons why they thought the Emperor was Belial, rather than just state it. Also, if they knew Hakan was Belial, why didn't they mention it when everyone was deciding what to do? So the Emperor turns into Belial and his shapeshifters attack you. He then attacks you himself. The first time I beat Belial, I thought he was an easy boss until he reveals his second form. You then beat Belial again, his palace destroying illusion is broken, and Leia seals his soul in the Black Soul Stone. Back at the camp, despite not knowing where Azmodan is, or when, if ever, he'll attack humanity, Tyrael has somehow arranged another caravan to the next arc. Part 5. Character Analysis. Leia. Despite wanting revenge against Maghda for killing her uncle Deckard Cain, she doesn't help you fight or track down Maghda in any way. It can't be because of the danger involved, as she's willing to look for and fight against Belial, even though he's more dangerous. Another odd thing is that Leia doesn't even ask you whether you defeated Maghda or whether she somehow managed to escape. Leia's motivations don't make any sense. I think what happened is that Blizzard wanted her to be present for specific battles and wrote the story around this. The result is that rather than making rational choices consistent with her character, Leia just joins you to fight against minor bosses, then leaves to go stand around doing nothing. This makes her difficult to relate to. Tyrael. Act 2 completely ruins Tyrael's character. Despite him clearly stating at the end of Act 1 that he became mortal because he wanted to help humanity and fight against the Demon Lord, he never does anything to stop Belial or help humanity. He just stands around doing nothing. Even when Caldeum revolts against Belial and Belial is firing huge fireballs at the people of Caldeum. This isn't how someone who became mortal because he couldn't stand the inaction of angels should act when the Demon Lord he became mortal to stop is attacking the city he wanted to protect. Like Leia, the developers clearly couldn't think of anything for Tyrael to do, so they just made him stand around doing nothing, even though that was the opposite of what his character should be doing. So the plot of Act 2 is so bad that it harms the characters in the story. Adria. Out of the Skeleton King, the Butcher, and Adria, I feel that Adria was the best incorporated from Diablo 1 to Diablo 3. Adria has has a clear role in the story, and the reason for including her is because of the knowledge she acquired from Deckard Cain in Diablo 1. Though the Skeleton King was also important to the early part of Act 1's plot, he could have been replaced with any other undead warrior and the story would have been much the same. The Butcher was the worst incorporated character because he added nothing to the plot and was only in Diablo 3 because Act 1 needed a boss. Zoltan Kull. Like most people, I like Zoltan Kull. He had a clear personality, appeared in various places to help your character, and provided foreshadowing. Another advantage was that as a ghost there was a clear reason why he couldn't help you fight against the demon, unlike Adria, Leia and Tyrael, who could have helped you but didn't. Maghda. The plot is confused regarding whether you're in Caldeum to fight Belial, have Maghda lead you to Belial, or to kill Maghda to avenge Deckard Cain's death. Personally, I didn't hate Maghda as she did fulfill her role as an antagonist in Act 1, because she gave the player a reason to travel through Kandora, though her role in Act 2 was minor as she simply served as a way to separate the player from Leia, so Leia could be captured. It may have been better if Maghda was the boss of Act 1, and Act 2 focused solely on finding Belial. Emperor Hakan II. I'm somewhat confused regarding whether he was always Belial, or whether Belial was using him and later replaced him. The history of Caldeum's Part 5 and 6 mentioned that the Zakarum determined that an impoverished infant was the spiritual successor to Hakan I and made him the new ruler of Kyrgyzstan. Given that the Zakarum were a religious order corrupted by Mephisto in Diablo 2, it's possible that Belial used them to gain influence in Caldeum or take control of it. So either Belial ruled Caldeum directly as Emperor Hakan II, or Belial used Emperor Hakan II as a puppet ruler and ruled indirectly. Given that your companions don't question why Hakan is in the sewers, but do question how he can project himself into the aqueducts and Zoltan Kulls archives, it's more likely that Emperor Hakan II was a puppet that was replaced by Belial after he helped you. Belial. The analysis of Belial ties into Part 6, Plot Analysis. I was confused about why Belial was in Caldeum. Judging by what his guards and the Coven are doing, he wants to gather as many humans as possible in order to sacrifice them. But it's never explained why. Does he gain power from the sacrifices? If that's the case, then why does he send Maghda to Alcarnus, where the sacrifices are taking place, so you won't be in Caldeum? It can't be because he's trying to hide from the angels that he's in the sanctuary, since Tyrael became mortal to tell humanity that Belial was in Caldeum. Tyrael specifically criticised Imperius because the angels knew what Belial was doing, but chose not to act. His goal can't be to destroy Caldeum because he's annoyed that it's revolting against him, and he already has all the power he needs to rain fiery death upon the population. He can't be in Caldeum because of the Black Soul Stone because he didn't know what it did and was torturing Adria for information. Also, if the Black Soul Stone was so important to Belial, then why did he send his minions to get it rather than go himself? If Caldeum was important to getting the Black Soul Stone, then why didn't he use any of Caldeum's resources, such as soldiers or money, to get the Black Soul Stone? The only reason given is that Caldeum is the greatest trading city in the world. Given that Belial chose to send you after Maghda and away from Caldeum, and chose to remain in Caldeum instead of going after the Black Soul Stone, there's evidence that he wants to control Caldeum. So, if Belial wants a wealthy city, why is he mismanaging it? And why does he expel so many people from the inner city? Also, what is he planning to do with Caldeum's wealth? The only reason I can think of for Belial to be in Caldeum is that the developers wanted Belial to be in control of a city, but never bothered to think of why Belial would want this city. From this half-baked plot, we get Belial trying to rule a city that provides him with no benefits, instead of searching for the Black Soul Stone, which is beneficial to him. Overall, the plot of Act 2 is poor. Belial is in Caldeum despite having no reason to be there. We never get to see the more interesting parts of Caldeum, such as the Zakarum Cathedral or the Mage's Yari Sanctum, and the player searches for body parts of a dead Herodrim rather than lead a revolt against Belial. In my opinion, Caldeum was underused and Belial could have been doing so much more, like trying to convince humans to join the demon army against the Heaven, or just corrupting humans like Mephisto did in Diablo 2 Act 3. The plot also has too many coincidences. Leia conveniently gets captured so you can meet Emperor Khan. Adria is conveniently in Caldeum when you are, and is conveniently being tortured nearby so you can conveniently rescue her. Emperor Khan is conveniently in the sewers waiting for someone to help him. Zoltan Kulls' body parts are all conveniently located near your camp, and Caldeum conveniently revolts when you want to fight Belial. Events in the story should be dependent on the player's action, not occur because the writers didn't know how to link them together. Act 2 story could have been much better if only the developers had put more thought into it.